David,
Nice to see you, Tanner.
Thank you for joining me.
It's a pleasure,
it.
always.
If you could give us a little bit of your background and what you're doing, a little biography and where you are, that'd be great.
Sure. So I come to the cannabis industry with about 25 plus years in pharma, so healthcare.
Wow.
Most recently doing international product licensing across Europe, North Africa, the Middle East. But I have deep experience in sales, marketing, government relations, all sorts of aspects of the pharmaceutical space, and a lot of that translates very nicely to the cannabis space, obviously.
So because it's so regulated, I guess. Is that the spirit of it, or?
Well, I think at the heart of pharmaceuticals, good pharmaceuticals, and at the heart of medicinal cannabis in particular, as well as recreational, it's all about the consumer. It's about the patient. And healing them, helping them relax if it's recreational, helping cure or address a medical issue if it's medicinal. And I think that part translates very, very well because you're trying to find solutions for problems for people and helping people. So I think done right, healthcare, pharmaceuticals helps people very well. And I think done right, the cannabis industry helps people very well. And so that's the same. I'm in the same business.
That's actually kind of nice to hear, and I haven't interviewed too many people yet that have come directly from the pharmaceutical industry because they're in the cannabis industry, of course, we all like to talk about the big bad boogeyman of the pharma world. But what you're saying at the baseline is there's a lot of good intent in the pharmaceutical world.
The pharmaceutical industry has earned the bad reputation it has by doing things inappropriately. There's no question. At the same time, we have cures for diseases now that we wouldn't have without the pharmaceutical industry. And a case in point, so my younger brother, he developed leukemia when he was 4 years old. At the time he developed leukemia, this is 1977, 1978, he was of 21 kids diagnosed at the same time with the same type of leukemia in Halifax, Nova Scotia. He's the only survivor.
Oh my gosh.
So that type of childhood leukemia was a death sentence in 1978. Fast forward today, if you had a child and that child contracted the same kind of cancer, it's like an 18 months with the flu. The survivability rate is over 97%. We're not holding their hands differently. We're not doing, other treatments other than pharmaceutical therapy. And that pharmaceutical therapy is saving those lives. It's hard to argue that that's a bad thing. That's a good thing.
Well, that's right? So I mean, obviously you carried that with you
100%.
For most of your life, and you carried that with you into the pharmaceutical industry originally. You had that firsthand result, and now now that's coming into the next stage of your pharmaceutical medicinal healthcare career.
Sure.
But you're not. But this is a lot different. The position you're in now. So if you can tell us a little bit about that, your position, the company you're working for.
Sure. So I'm vice president of revenue and partnerships with Civilized. Civilized is a global media entity, lifestyle brand that has at its core the wish to change the conversation around cannabis. Really been in existence for about 4 years now with a head office in St. John, New Brunswick, and then a very large footprint in Venice Beach, California, where our founders and publishers, Derek Reedley and his wife Terry Reedley, who's our president, they live there now, although they're back and forth, on a regular basis. 1 week to the next. Terry was there last week in St. John, and Derek will be there next week. So they're
split up. They share
They work so hard. It's really impressive to see what the team that they've created and the media company that exists. I mean, our Civilized website gets 3 million unique visitors on a monthly basis, which makes it very, very large. It's North American traffic. It's not bot traffic, so we don't have like India, 33%. So
this is earned.
It's
earned
true.
Attention.
It is, and it largely, in large part, due to our chief content officer, who's the former chief content officer for Playboy. Corey Jones brings with him.
I've heard of that magazine. I've never read it myself. Maybe I see it in some gas stations.
He has some fabulous stories. Corey he was actually the one who had to lead taking nudity out of the magazine. So as you know, they did a pivot a few years ago to try to get kind of on the newsstands at the grocery store rather than being in some covered box, in the
gas station.
In the naughty section. So he's got a great story about convincing Hefner to do that, and he should tell that, not I, but it's a great story. So we have folks like Corey Jones with deep experience on that side, on the content development side. We have folks from Disney on the audience development side and how to grow an audience and things like that. And expertise, again, from folks from Maker on video. We've got some really impressive content chops. And when you put that in play, and you pick a point in the market that is good. So, for example, I mean, as much as Dope and High Times are fabulous magazines, and we respect them, they're really coming from that stoner porn culture, right? Rather than
which there's a market for, right?
There's a market for it. I think there's been a need for it. I mean,
Absolutely.
High Times is a great organization, but if you look at today, the mainstream, and our belief is that there are many people who are married, they do very well. If we look at the demographics of our website, we split, 50-50 male-female. The incomes are fairly high. They lean a little to the left of the political spectrum, but this affluent group are probably not folks who identify with the stoner culture. Rather, they're moms and dads, they have jobs, they're executives, and they just so happen to enjoy cannabis as part of a healthy lifestyle. So, but they don't define themselves by that consumption.
That's right.
And so I think there's a large segment of the population that enjoys this cannabis, that are consuming in the closet, if you will. And those are the folks we speak to. So we bridge the mainstream and cannabis culture. So we can speak to cannabis culture and they get us and we get them. And we can speak to the mainstream culture and they get us and we get them. And for those folks trying to transition from one to the other, we become a nice bridge. We convene the World Cannabis Congress where we talk about these types of things. We've got the website. We do fun things like our Chelsea Handler tour that we just finished, 7-city tour.
That was you guys just did a cross Canada Chelsea Handler tour.
Halifax, Vancouver, and spots in between.
She's a big Civilized advocate, right? She's right in there with you guys.
She's a big fan. We're big fans of Chelsea as well. Like she, when you look at that tour specifically, she's used her stardom to do some really good things. So we pushed officially Emily's List, which is an initiative in the United States to encourage women to run for office. That's a great initiative. She's obviously at the forefront of the Me Too movement. And encouraging a change in the way that women are treated, both in the entertainment world and elsewhere. And she's a huge cannabis advocate.
So cannabis is part of her life, but it's not her life.
No,
it's
you
not,
wouldn't,
like many
look at
users.
Her, there's no dreads, right? Like but at the same time, she microdoses. She's researched it extensively. She has experimented on camera, probably too much. But at the same time, she's looking at it from a very civilized way, in our opinion, and it's good. It's good. The information that she's gathered and the approach that she is taking is a good one.
So you are, that's she as a person is aligned with your brand. I mean, that's your target audience. I mean, I think I'm in that demographic as well. I had I wrote a blog recently about kind of my history with cannabis and becoming a patient. I'm a patient now, and I walked in, and a girl owns a restaurant near my office. I read the blog, and I walked in there, and she looked at me and she went, I read your blog. And she's like, I had no idea, and I asked her, I said, well, no, what do you mean, no idea? She's like, oh, well, that you did that stuff, or that you smoked, or whatever, right? Even though I'm running a cannabis company, company. And it was one of those things. It was. I haven't had a lot of them, I guess, because anybody who knows me for a very brief amount of time will find out quickly that I cannabis is an important part of my life. But it was one of those moments where it is that she's got this
preconceived notion.
She's got this.
Cannabis people don't look like that.
That's right.
Cannabis people look like this. Which is not the case.
Yeah, and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business. I'm one of her. I eat there 5 times a week because it's close and cheap. But I'm one of her best clients. But she's exactly. She's like, I didn't fit the image she had in her head, right?
Well, and I think that extends to a lot of different areas. If you look at our notions of the political spectrum, and we tend to go, well, that's a left-wing, kind of idea, this whole notion of cannabis and whatnot, when in reality, libertarians have been voting for that or pushing for that for a long time. If you look at the Republican or the conservative side of the spectrum in Canada, hey, John Boehner and the former Conservative Prime Minister Brian Mulroney are both on the board of Acreage.
Yeah.
Right?
They're both on it. They're amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when you think of that, like that's a bit of a shift, and it's also a bit of a...
Well, I always kind of suspected Brian Mulroney was stoned a lot. I don't know.
It's very smooth talker.
Yeah, he's too smooth. He's too smooth not to
really
be a
relaxed
cannabis
up
user.
there. I wonder. We do a series like, does this? We actually ended up on Ellen.
Yeah. Oh well, congratulations.
The Ellen DeGeneres show. We had this little bit like, does this celebrity, you think they're a user, this kind of thing?
Yeah.
And we did that with Ellen, and it's kind of a fun little video, and guessing whether or not they consume. And she played it on her show.
Oh wow!
And was like, and she didn't say one way or the other.
She didn't admit.
She didn't admit one way or the other. So we thought that was interesting.
I'm going to go with yes with Ellen. I'm going with yes. So that's
a good dancer. So and does that like just at the drop of the hat. So
yeah,
that's usually an indication. I maybe, but again, I'm putting things in boxes.
Yeah, you're putting things in boxes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk a little bit about your content. What is? I mean, that's a really fun piece of content.
Yeah.
But what are some of your pillars? What are some of your drivers around the content that Civilized puts out?
So, what are some of the pillars? I mean, if I think about what we put out, we look at the things that, say, Vanity Fair would look at, right? So we look at sex and travel and food and lifestyle and all of those things that people are interested in.
Yeah.
And there's a subtle undertone of cannabis and how cannabis plays a role in a positive way with any of those endeavors. We also poke fun at a few things. We've got a wonderful series of charts that comes out by a fabulous guy who and they're kind of comical, funny things.
Yeah.
We have funny videos. We have our own platform on the Unreal platform, so our own over-the-top video.
Okay.
We also do podcasts with Ricardo Baca.
Yes, I've seen those. Those are great.
Which is a very solid. He's a real journalist, and those things are amazing to listen to. The feedback we get on that and the number of downloads that we get on that are pretty incredible. So that's a kind of a flagship product.
Yeah.
But we have a number of kind of things. So again, if we do the World Cannabis Congress, which is this, 14 countries and politicians and policy and serious thing, that kind of gives us license to do Chelsea Handler and having fun and, make still a message, but a little lighter on the spectrum. So we have kind of things that go on both sides in an effort to balance it all off.
Yeah.
But
you're entertaining and engaging people,
it
right?
should be.
Yeah.
It should be. And in doing so, we kind of lower hopefully the stigma.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, coming from pharma, evidence-based medicine, research, all of that approach, cannabis lacks a lot of that information. Right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, when I saw the Sanjay Gupta CNN two-part series, and you saw those kids who were having seizures, and then they didn't have those seizures, I don't think anybody's arguing for kids to be in pain. And so that kind of sets a new foundation, a new kind of, okay, well, we can't go below that.
Yeah.
So it's not completely 100% evil and developed by Satan. It helps kids. So that's, okay, so that's a little step up.
Yeah.
At the same time, it probably doesn't cure all ills, but maybe it does. I don't know. But like the research...
We're looking. Everybody's looking.
Research needs to happen, which was banned during Prohibition era. So we were prevented from finding these important answers out. With Canada fully legal, research is exploding in Canada. And there are opportunities for folks in other countries to take part in that research. And so I think that over the next little while, we're going to get information around socioeconomic stuff. So is this a good policy decision? Are there fewer car accidents? Are there more? Is there more violence or less violence? Is there more addiction or less addiction? Like those types of social problem information. I think that stuff will emerge, and that'll help guide policy. We can tweak policy and make sure it's a good thing. At the same time, medicinal stuff like Epidiolex, what happened and helped those kids, now an FDA-approved medication.
Wow.
Right? In Canada, insurance companies, Sun Life, famous for reimbursing for a number of different conditions.
So they're coming online. The insurance companies are...
There are, if you have cancer and you're using cannabis as an antiemetic to prevent nausea and to increase appetite, that's approved.
That's approved for Sun Life today.
You can get
so
that covered.
not just for veterans, everybody.
Everybody.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's Sun Life Insurance, a private company, and they made the bold decision to allow people to use their health spending account, so the same kind of area where you might use for chiropractor or for natural medicine, that you can choose to use that portion to fund your cannabis.
Yeah.
It's still a step below, DIN numbers and full reimbursement. There's still a step that needs to happen around tax and ensuring that medicinal product does not have an HST on it.
Right now it is. We're getting taxed.
It is
on medicine,
and that's a social justice issue that needs to be resolved.
Yeah.
I think social justice is a very Derek Reedley, our founder and publisher, will say. And talk about many of the social justice issues that that's kind of where the industry needs to now shift a little bit and again focus. I mean, in the United States, you've got hundreds of thousands of people who are incarcerated in one state for doing something that next door, 10 miles later, over here,
it's legal.
It's totally fine.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
It's crazy.
Like,
and here we are in Vegas. There's 20,000 people here in the and this is an example of that. They've got dispensaries here. Yeah. And a few states over, people are in prison. It is crazy. Yeah. So to finish off here, Damon, what does it mean to you? So you ended up in the cannabis industry, and you have a family, right? You're a dad. You've had a long
kids.
Career, and now did your dad coolness go up when you took this position, or
maybe? I mean, I still advocate, like my kids are 22, 20, and 17. I still advocate for holding off until you're 25, 26. From the evidence that we have.
Yeah, you didn't take the job with Civilized and run home and drop it back.
No.
Hey,
kids, here's a grinder, kids. Let's have some. No, quite the opposite.
Yeah.
In fact, I believe we need to have that conversation that is elevated, that is adult, that looks at the pros and cons, that examines that in a real world issue. It's still fun. I look at Derek again. There's a guy who was, popping back 12 beer on a Saturday. Culturally, after the hockey game or after the hockey practice, you have a bunch of beers with the guys, and he was gaining weight, and he was having a hard time on Sunday morning, being the dad and being present because of the headache and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
And when he switched over to using cannabis rather than beer, so he made a complete switch, gave up beer completely, and went to cannabis. I mean, the guy's got a washboard stomach, and he's fit, and he looks great, and it's because he's had this epiphany to switch over to cannabis. So that choice was a very healthy choice for him, and I think for many others it would be as well. And so we need to talk about that and to acknowledge that and to say, you know what? Like, you're a pretty fit guy, right?
Thank you.
And you use cannabis. And,
yes, I do.
That's okay.
And I on that note, I've been working diligently to accomplish that same thing you were just speaking about that Derek has accomplished. I have a history of the two substances side by side, alcohol and cannabis, and I can confidently point to cannabis and say, that has made my life better. I have a net positive from that in many different ways, and I can more than confidently point to alcohol and say that has been a real anchor, right? Weight, how you feel, and the worst of it is, the hangovers and the apologies. We've all
been
there. Had that, sorry, honey.
Totally.
Too much moose head.
Indeed.
But, David,
Indeed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for
appreciate it.
Having a conversation.
Absolutely.
Always great to see you.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to all the stuff that keeps coming out of Civilized. It's great. I love it. I'm a subscriber. Subscribe to Civilized, the online magazine.
Civilized.life, and World Cannabis Congress coming up.
Absolutely.
We'll see you there.
You will see me there.
Away we go. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.